Welcome you all to today's topic on institutional philanthropy and grassroots fundraising, a match made for movement building. I'm excited to have together with us today folks from GIFT, which stands for Grassroots Institute for Fundraising Training, and other guests who are joining them. Today we have Veronica Garcia, Donna Bivens, Alice Aguilar, and Crystal Middlestat with us. I'm going to take a few minutes to just do a brief introduction, go over some welcoming notes from EPIP and housekeeping notes about today's call, and then I'm going to pass the call over to them to take it away on the topic for today. So for those who are new to EPIP, we'd love to welcome you, and anyone who's returning, welcome back. EPIP stands for Emerging Practitioners in Philanthropy, and we are a national network of foundation professionals, social entrepreneurs, and other change makers who strive for excellence in the practice of philanthropy. Our mission is really focused on cultivating and activating leadership in order to advance equity in the sector. And we do this by providing a platform for our community to connect with others, to learn and practice leadership skills, and to inspire emerging ideas in the social sector. If you're signed up with us today, you've probably already landed on our website, but if not, definitely would love to have you check it out at epip.org. And if you have questions or interested to learn more about what we do or joining, please feel free to reach out. My email is on the screen right now. It's biz@epip.org, and I look forward to hearing from you. I want to just give you a quick heads up on things that are coming up. This is actually our last webinar of the year. It's been a wonderful year for this program, and especially going into the holiday season and thinking about all of the current events, there is a lot of timely need for this conversation about how we raise the funds that are necessary to move movement forward. But looking into 2017, we're going to have a brand new schedule for the year, and we're going to kick that off with a call on January 11th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So check out the website, epip.org/events, for a chance to register for that webinar coming up shortly, and other events on the chapter level around the country. Also flagging that in the fall, we're going to be together with Change Philanthropy this year at the Unity Summit. So I know folks are already starting to ask about the EPIP conference, and actually next year, we're excited to be joining forces with all the change partners to be together there. And I'm sure that very shortly we will have more announcements about other events in 2017, so please stay tuned. For today's call, I would love to just go over some quick housekeeping notes. You'll see a question box in your control panel, and I'd like to ask that you please use that question box to reach out to me during the call. If you're having any trouble hearing, if you're having any trouble with the audio or visual, you can also put comments or questions for the content-based questions in that question box. We'll use that as the place that we are sharing your questions to the panelists from. So please just type them in there. All questions are anonymous. All polls are also anonymous. So please feel free to speak freely. We ask that if you're joining the conversation on social media, that you tag us with the hashtag EPIPwebinar so that we can follow along. And just note that this webinar will be recorded. Slides and the archived recording will be available on our website within the week. And finally, I'd like to ask, at the end of your call today, you'll be prompted to answer a quick 7-question survey. And whatever feedback you can provide in that survey is really valuable for us as we're planning the year ahead, as we're thinking about how to really provide content and reach out to speakers who will be most valuable for you and your work. So please share your feedback there. And then without further ado, I'm really honored and thrilled to be able to welcome 4 great speakers today to the EPIP webinar platform. As I mentioned, Veronica Garcia from Grassroots Institute for Fundraising has really been at the helm of bringing this webinar together. So thank you so much to Veronica. I'm assuming that you guys will dig into this a bit deeper, but just briefly for folks who are new to GIFT, GIFT is a multiracial organization that promotes the connection between fundraising, social justice, and movement building. And Veronica is deeply committed to using the power of fundraising as a movement building strategy. So I think we're in good hands to dig into this topic today. We're joined by Donna Bivens as well, who for the past 6 years has been the director of the Boston Busing Desegregation Project at the Union of minority neighborhoods in Boston. She also does anti-racism training and consulting nationally. Alice Aguilar, who has worn many hats while working with and within community organizing groups for over 20 years. Alice is deeply committed to helping groups integrate their organizing, fundraising, communications work, and leveraging effective uses of technology to maximize their efforts to win. And Crystal Middlestat is also from GIFT. Crystal joined Grassroots Institute for Fundraising Training in 2015 as the Resource Development Director, and she has more than 10 years experience with grassroots fundraising, gender justice, and anti-violence organizing. Her curiosity and how funding influences organizational and movement priorities led her to join the First Development Committee in 2006 while program staff at a local rape crisis center. So thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to turn it over now to Veronica. And Veronica, you can, yeah. And you're still on mute.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
That's great, yep.
Great. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much again for joining us this afternoon. My name, once again, is Veronica, and I am a staff member at GIFT. And we're excited to be here with you all today, telling you a little bit about GIFT programming and describing a little bit about how we envision this work moving forward. So just really quickly, Biz mentioned just a little bit about GIFT. We were founded in 1996. And it's very important to us to explore how groups are funded. We believe that how groups are funded is as important to achieving their goals as how the money is spent. We absolutely believe that building community support is vital to and conducive to long-term change and fundraising as movement building. So we're going to take you through a little tour of GIFT's programs today. But first, I want to start with some introductions. And I'd like to, first of all, bring our participants into the space by asking you all to participate in a poll.
So right now,
so you see the poll come up on your screen?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. If folks see the poll on your screen, if you could please choose to answer the best matches with you. And then once we get a critical mass, we will close the poll. Great, so we're almost there for about 5 more seconds. If anyone else would like to share your responses. All right, thank you. Veronica, take it away.
Great, thanks, Biz. So we see here, we have folks mostly responding, I'm both a donor and a fundraiser at 79%. And then we have 21% of folks, it looks like, responding, I am a donor and I support causes I believe in by giving. So the purposes of starting with this poll is to give you all just a very, very small taste of how GIFT begins typically our introduction with folks as we're out in community and working to really promote fundraising as movement building. So thank you all so much for participating in that poll. And that really kind of helps us to set the stage as we move into our presentation. I'll ask each of you all to participate in this presentation by just kind of reflecting on where you would place yourself in the context of our presentation as you think about these things. So first of all, I want to introduce you all to our participants. So Biz told us a little bit about our panelists, but I want to give each of them an opportunity to tell you a little bit about themselves. So I want to start with Donna. And Donna, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself to the group.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Bivens, and I work at the Union of Minority Neighborhoods. I've been working on a project called the Boston Busing Desegregation Project, looking at Boston's desegregation history and its connection to what's going on in public education today. I don't. I also before that worked at the Women's Theological Center, which was an alternative theological center looking at women, faith, and spirituality, and justice. And I was a co-director there, so I did a lot of fundraising there, all kinds of fundraising, grant writing, but most of our support, most of our stable support was from community members, individual giving. And we also did, of course, events, fundraising events, and house parties. So we did a little bit of everything. Another part of my experience that might be relevant here is that for years I was on the board of the Boston Women's Fund. And I did that for several years. So I've had a a lot of experience fundraising, and until recently, it wasn't my favorite part of the work. So I just want to end with that.
Thank you, Donna. And now, Ellis, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the group, please.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Alice Aguilar, and I am Executive Director of Progressive Technology Project. We're a national nonprofit social justice movement technology organization. And what that really means is that we work with grassroots organizing and advocacy groups who are working in people of color and low-income communities to help strengthen, their organizing work, their communications, civic engagement, and grassroots fundraising through the use of effective and strategic use of technology. I am also on the board of another organization called the Ellis Fund, which is based in Texas. We provide direct financial assistance and outreach education for folks needing abortion services to remove the barrier of access to these services. And in both these capacities, I do fundraising, grassroots fundraising, as well as grant writing. And prior to being an ED, as you mentioned, I've done a lot of work as an organizer. I was a development director, did grant writing, mostly focusing on issues around Indigenous people's rights. And most of that work was traditionally, really siloed from the issue and the organizing work. So through those years of doing that work, it really became clear that to really sustain the work that we needed to do, we needed to diversify funding, diversify the streams to sustain our work. So we couldn't just rely only on grants. So there was this time when I just sort of really think about, wow, we have to really start to learn and embrace this fundraising piece, the grassroots fundraising piece as part of the organizing job that, I was already doing, but how to move our whole organization. So really have to think about ways of doing fundraising, that sort of value aligned with the work and goals of the organization that I was working in, and even now, in ways that are sort of aligned with our culture, relationships, and the future we wanted to see. I never thought of myself as a grassroots fundraiser and had an intense fear of asking for money from my peers, major donors, or even community members because of my own ideas of power dynamics around money. But that really changed, with practice, with the practices and thinking and detangling this traditional idea of the asker-giver relationship. So, it was great to be able to fall in with gift folks. We've actually met folks, staff years ago, through being an organizer doing this work and really being able to find a network of folks like Gift, where we sort of shared these values and how to really think through and rethink our own identities as fundraisers. Thanks for that.
Great, thank you, Alice. And Crystal, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the group, please.
Hi, everyone. As Biz said, I work at Gift. I'm the Resource Development Director there, and I've been doing grassroots fundraising for 10 years now. And I joined my first development committee 10 years ago, and it was at a mainstream rape crisis organization that had a really long history of being staffed and led almost exclusively by white women. And that was here in Denver, Colorado, where I'm based. And I was one of the first women of color to move beyond like an entry-level staff position to become a program director, which means I had a little bit more access to some of the overall like direction of the organization. So at the time in 2006, I joined that development committee, both because I was just looking to gain some new skills, and fundraising seemed like an important skill to try to build. But it also represented a way for me to access some of that decision-making power and participate in just kind of, moving the organization more towards, at the time, a group that could be serving communities of color in ways that it wasn't. So the committee included the executive director, a board treasurer, the development director, and then myself as the only program staff. And so the development director and I really pushed the organization to adopt a new mission-driven approach to fundraising. And that approach involved a lot of intentional donor cultivation and stewardship. But one of the things I really enjoyed at the time as a program staff member is it really also pushed us as staff to document and share our stories, oftentimes really emotional stories about the impact that our work doing violence prevention and providing direct services to sexual assault survivors, the impact that was having in our community. So that was a really transformational experience at times too, to learn how to really share our stories. So I ended up leaving that work in 2007, and I joined the staff at Survivors Organizing for Liberation, which is a queer and trans-led organization here in Colorado. And it was here that I had the opportunity to first work alongside and learn some really great hands-on fundraising skills from GIFT graduates. And that actually included Veronica. We worked together many years ago here in Denver. And so through working alongside about 3 or 4 different GIFT graduates that had been through some really extensive training and fellowship programs, I got to learn how to use fundraising as an organizing and base building tool. I was able to help build the organization's first monthly donor program. And Nia King, who was a GIFT graduate as well, interned for a while and helped us launch our first successful annual event, which was a family-friendly pancake breakfast. And it became a signature event for the organization in Denver and ran for 6 consecutive years. And during that time, I found that I really loved grassroots fundraising. I loved supporting volunteer fundraisers and board members, and I really loved developing fundraising strategy. But most of all, I really loved the opportunity to connect with our donors, to share stories with each other about why we cared about an issue or a cause, and to just invite people to be a part of something bigger than themselves. So that really kicked off my excitement to do this work.
Thanks so much, Crystal. So thanks again to the 3 of you for willing to share just a little bit about yourselves and your background. So I myself came into grassroots fundraising through GIFT as well. A little over 10 years ago, as Crystal has mentioned, I had an opportunity to go through GIFT's staff and training program. It's not currently an active program, but at the time, GIFT was recruiting folks who were already working in nonprofit organizations and would bring us in as a cohort to teach us skills and tools and strategies around grassroots fundraising. At the time that I met GIFT, I would say that I was a reluctant fundraiser, and now in my work with GIFT as staff, I've come to find that that's actually a pretty common character that we come across in our trainings, the reluctant fundraiser. And so for many years, I've been involved in community work, community development work, and even direct services, nonprofit work. And I thought I had found my niche there. I thought that's kind of where I was going to live and exist, and that would be my role. And I used to see fundraising as just this other thing that happened somewhere else, that somebody else in an organization did, so that I could keep doing the real work, providing services or organizing out in the community. And so at the time that I met GIFT, I was working for an organization in Colorado, the same organization that Crystal referred to. At the time, it was called the Colorado Anti-Violence Program. And I was the executive director on a staff of 2. We were a statewide LGBTQ anti-violence organization. We operated a crisis hotline and then also physically toured the state as necessary to engage with communities around the state of Colorado. So as you might imagine, it was a huge job. Like most grassroots nonprofits, it was a huge, huge job and a very small organization. that we were using to try and kind of accomplish our mission and vision. And so my interaction with Gift was one of the first times that I actually really consciously thought about money, the power of money and my relationship with money. And so my experience with Gift was a very transformative one for me personally. Here I am a little over 10 years later, fully identifying as a grassroots fundraiser. And I absolutely love the opportunities that fundraising gives me to share my passions with other people. So that's a little bit about me and my background with Gift. I like to say that I feel very proud of how much I feel like my personal story and relationship with Gift has come full circle. Having kind of first opened my eyes and my heart to the powers of fundraising with Gift's support a little over a decade ago, and today really feeling very, very empowered in my abilities and skills as a fundraiser. I often talk about how much learning to be an effective fundraiser has contributed to my personal development, just as a strong and resilient person. So that's just a quick introduction to your panelists today. And I'm going to dive into our presentation where, as I said, we're going to give you a little bit of a tour through Gift's programs. So I want to start off, first of all, by distinguishing what we mean when we say grassroots fundraising. At Gift, we make the distinction between grassroots fundraising and what we'll call institutional fundraising. When we talk about institutional fundraising, we're talking about institutions like foundations, like corporations, for example, that are involved in charitable giving. And the distinction for grassroots fundraising is that we're really talking about targeting individual donors that are the closest to our issues, that are the most directly impacted by our causes. So that's the major distinction between grassroots fundraising and institutional fundraising, is really the target. With grassroots fundraising, we're really focusing on targeting and developing our relationships with that individual donor. And here you see just a reflection of the types of characteristics that describe what grassroots fundraising looks like. So it's there are commonalities. We're listening to one another. It's values-based. We're really focusing on building community. And again, very important to remember that we're prioritizing participation from the folks that are most closely impacted by the work that we're doing, folks that represent various income levels and life experiences. We also always try to bring into space, when we're conducting our programming, this idea that marginalized communities have legacies of grassroots fundraising. If we look at the history of movement building and movements, specifically movements that have impacted this country, the United States, over the course of history, we know that a lot of these social movements have been successful because they have been sustained by resources being generated by the folks who are most directly impacted. Fundraising is a form of exercising power and resilience and helps to reflect the ownership of a group's work by its community, by, again, the folks that are being most impacted. At its core, grassroots fundraising as movement building is all about building and strengthening relationships. So that's the focus of what we're talking about when we talk about grassroots fundraising. And here I provide this slide for you just to, again, give you a little bit of a taste of what the information that you would be getting exposed to as a Gift training participant. And then for us, this is part of making the case for the emphasis on focusing on individual donors. This information pictured here comes from Giving USA. It's accessible as an internet resource, and Giving USA puts out an annual report on this data set, all of these data sets around charitable giving. And so we introduced this information to training participants just to begin to make the case for why it's so absolutely important that we focus our fundraising efforts on individuals. And so here you see that we're simply addressing literally dollars. So we start our case by demonstrating to folks that the number of dollars that we have in our reach when we target individual donors is significantly greater than when we target any of these three additional areas pictured here. So foundations, corporations, and bequests. And most training participants are pretty surprised to find that this is the very general annual breakdown of charitable giving by institutional categories here in the United States. So we start there with making that case to training participants. And really the emphasis of that part of the training is getting participants to begin thinking about movement building resources as existing in a state of abundance. So as fundraisers, we oftentimes are hampered by seeing the resources available to us as limited or scarce. And so we're really trying to kind of help shift training participants' thinking when we're presenting some of this information. Here we kind of zoom out to provide just a larger kind of structural framework for GIFT's approach. And so what we'll introduce to training participants is that our training programs really target this individual change. You see the individual pictured here in this model. So we're really working with folks to help them transition their own practices and ideas and views and values about money and fundraising as a movement building tool. And then you see here as we go around this model, taken from the Movement Strategy Center, ideally that individual transformation contributes to organizational change, which then moves organizational strategy, and then actually goes on kind of through this model to impact movement culture. And then ideally leading finally to the world we all dream of living in together, right? Societal change, really shifting cultures and systems. So this is kind of a broad overview of the trajectory that we're after in our body of work. So I'm going to introduce you first of all to GIFT's training programs. Here you see a kind of a listing of all of our programming areas. We're going to start with programs, training, capacity building, and consulting services. I'll tell you a little bit about what that looks like, and then we'll hear from Donna about her experience with that programming. We'll talk a little bit about our biennial conference, Money for Our Movements, and then our publication, the Grassroots Fundraising Journal as well. So this picture here is an image from a recent training that we did in Boston, and it was a training that we did for grantees of the Haymarket People's Fund and the Hyams Family Foundation. These two foundations partnered to get us out to Boston and then recruited some of their grantees to participate in this training cohort. This training here was just the start of our work together. And so we did a day-long training with community activists and organizers on grassroots fundraising basics. And you see here listed some of the topics in our introductory trainings. And these are some of the major topics that we're really grounding our participants' training experience in. And so at this point, Donna, I'll ask you to talk a little bit about your experience in a GIFT training. Donna was a participant at the Haymarket and Hyams Family Foundation training that I just referred to. So can you tell us just a little bit about what your experience was like in that training, Donna? And I'll let you all know, the reason that I've asked Donna to share about her experience is that after the training, Donna approached me and reflected. She said something that was very powerful to me. She said, I can't believe how much this training was about me and for me. So if you could just talk a little bit about your training experience, Donna.
Sure. I came to the training representing Union Minority Neighborhoods, and sort of nobody wanted to do it, so I sort of got drafted into doing it because we'd done so many fundraising trainings, and we're always trying to get fundraising done. So I just came to represent the organization with a young person who's in our leadership program. And I have to say that it was so transformational for me. And I should also say that I had taken a gift training 15 years before, at least 15 years before. And it was excellent. It got my head around some of the things you needed to do as a fundraiser. I learned the facts of it that I was able to use, but it was amazing to see the transformation that the training had made in the years since I took it. And the main thing what was different was, and I think some of it was how I've changed, and some of it was the training itself, and most of it was the training itself, because it engaged me mind, body, and spirit. So it wasn't just learning the facts of it, but there is something about the way that there were many things about the way the training was done that it really helped me put together, things about why I don't like it, even when I'm working like at the Women's Theological Center. Our donors wanted to give. They loved the center. They were committed to it. But I always felt like I was asking them something. And Veronica told a story in the training that made me about not asking her mom and having her and feeling, her mom feeling hurt that she didn't ask. That made me realize that I was thinking about it very differently, and it really helped that, and just it really helped me to understand the way that I give money. It's because I care, and it's a way of, as they talk about now, as Gift talks about, mobilizing resources, not just fundraising. And so that was really important for me, just to make that shift. They involved the mind, the body, and the spirit. So there were things that the storytelling, we changed elevator speech to passion speech, because again, the way it was demonstrated, it made us understand it's not just about the getting something done in that little time of the elevator ride. It was really about really expressing your passion for the work that you're doing. So it was very moving for me. But also on another level, I think the other thing that clicked for me, what was that this is so rooted in our work, which is a lot about dealing with issues of racism and white supremacy, and those for me are really wrapped up in money. I mean, it is finally about an economic system. And so it just really shifted my thinking about the importance of thinking about the economic system we live in and its connection to our own value system, and how we learn and choose to navigate it, especially in these really chaotic times. And so looking at just, my commitment to social justice, it really made me see that this too, what is like they're saying, it's movement work. It really is about getting to the root of some of the things that are unjust in our society. I think of that quote, Cornel West says that justice is what love looks like in public. And it just made me think about the ways that people, especially at the Women's Theological Center, I don't do as much fundraising where I am now, but at the Women's Theological Center, the way that the board would take care of us, and that it was love for us, and love for the organization, and love for the work, and it was so powerful for me. I remember one of our board members at one point, I thought they were so overburdened with trying to get money from us, but she insisted that she threatened to quit if they didn't get a retirement fund for us in this little organization. And it was like, that was an act of love. It was not even something we were asking for, but it was like taking care of us and taking care of the organization. It was always like that. So my whole thing is that the transformation was, for me, is seeing the systemic piece, in that this is about the individual, me as an individual, and looking at my giving as in that way, and about the organization and about the work, the movement is about trying to bridge some of these differences. And it seems like I would have known that all along, but I didn't. So it was a powerful experience for me. And also I've started joining boards again, and I go in. I've just recently, and I joined a board, and I'm going in with that lens that this mobilizing resources is an act of love.
That's great. Thank you so much, Donna. See, you see here the next slide that I've kind of put up. And here from Donna's sharing, what you hear is something that very commonly comes out of gift trainings as reflections from folks who are talking about how transformational their individual experiences in our trainings were. And so that's really what we're trying to do through our trainings. We're targeting individual people and helping folks to shift the way that they perceive themselves in the context of fundraising. And so there's a lot of really incredible, deep, dynamic transformation that happens for a training participant, the least of which is actually walking away with some of the tools and strategies that GIFT shares with folks. So I'm providing this model here for you all to convey a little bit of how we're starting to think about the development of fundraisers. And we believe that this model here can be applied both to the development of individual fundraisers as resource mobilizers, but also to organizations and the way that organizations are engaging with philanthropy and giving and receiving as movement building strategies. And so, again, through the training, we're really working to develop identity around a role, identity, passion, and commitment to the role of fundraiser or resource mobilizer. And so here again, the target is at the individual level. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about our biennial conference. This year was a conference year, and we hosted just over 600 conference attendees in Denver this past August. And I'd like to invite Ellis to talk to you all a little bit about her experience with GIFT, specifically in the context of the conference. And here I'll also share some data with you all about the conference. Go ahead, Alice.
Great, thank you. So about the money, so the gift money for our movement, you know, really is such an important networking and training opportunity for organizations, especially organizations working in people of color and low-income communities, you know, where we can sort of share our experiences, build our skills, our leadership and fundraising that's really value aligned, you know, with our social justice work. You know, it's really unique, and I haven't seen anything like this. You know, I see folks keep coming back. You know, this is my second rendition, my second round of participating in the conference. You know, GIFT, you know, itself supports the same sector of groups that my organization does, Progressive Technology Project, and so we have this shared mission in helping to strengthen organizations' capacity to do their work, and grassroots fundraising is key to that work. And you know, in doing this social justice work, I've really learned that really need to rethink these ideas of fundraising, grassroots fundraising particularly, our relationship with fundraising, being able to sustain the work, how we build critical mass and mobilize people on our issues. And I had to really redefine what donors meant, who they are, who's our base, who our community members are, you know, and their, you know, ability, you know, and changing our notion that, you know, we can, you know, fundraise from our base. It was a big culture shift. And this is something where GIFT really is an amazing partner in this, that is a culture shift, a change in thinking, helping groups do that. And this space, this training space, it's more than just training. And GIFT really, when, you know, I've been a presenter and facilitator for several workshops, and GIFT is really, they're really sort of hard-nosed about it, and I love it, that the space needs to be interactive. interactive, where we're workshopping, where folks can share their experiences, that we're not just talking at. Because we are, we go in seeing folks in the room as our peers, because we all have come from there, which was really fascinating, because I know that's intentional with GIFT and how they choose workshop facilitators, because some of the folks who are facilitating had come from, like, they were participants or they had attended trainings. So it's like real lived experience and the challenges and what it took to really sort of develop and step into this identity of the grassroots fundraiser, and what that means for the organization, because it really was thinking, it's moving away from the individual, but really thinking about our organizational needs and how we move the organization, the entire organization, to being involved. That fundraising is a team effort, that fundraising is organizing. It's interesting because these, I know my workshop, and I'd heard from other workshops, the room is always bursting at the seams with numbers of participants, and there never seems to be enough time, but it's a place, you can see where there's the need is there. Folks really need this, are wanting this kind of interaction workshop place to really talk about how to move their organization and even their own selves in stepping into grassroots fundraising. Interest is extremely high. We, again, bringing folks together, and GIFT is really thoughtful also on the kinds of, because they have an understanding of who the groups are that they're bringing into the space. So knowing and understanding the needs and making sure that we have topics and discussions that are relevant to where the sector is, and what they're struggling with, and really talking from, the social justice, from a social justice lens. And again, I've seen folks come back for more. I've seen participants, they'll even, beyond the workshop, it doesn't end there. They're willing to, because presenters are willing to share their contacts, and folks reach out. They've followed up with me. They've even tested and implemented some of the things they've learned, tried to experiment with it. And it's fascinating to watch that there's actually been quite a few. They've actually been able to go through some implementation. Sometimes they go back for more GIFT training. And then they will share publicly what they've learned. They've even published in the journal, which I think is fascinating. The journal is which I know we'll talk about later. And so it becomes like this organic space where folks are learning, testing, discussing, but then sharing back. It's like giving back to the community, and the space provides that as well, because folks are always willing to share that in the space, especially when you in that kind of peer collective learning is really important. So, as I'm just going to stop there, because it's again, I think it's an important space. I have not seen anything like it. And it's great to, and it's folks on the ground, folks on the front lines, and it's not just the fundraiser, the typical development person. You'll have lead organizers showing up, which is important, right? The EDs, the lead organizers, communications folks, so folks from all walks will be there.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a very diverse audience of participants at the conference. And so the conference is really about creating a space where we can invite hundreds, ideally someday thousands of people to plug in and help contribute to a shared story, shared strategies, and a shared structure around our work. And so you see, this is just another entry point into GIFT's programming. We have folks who attend the conference who have never been to a GIFT training, and vice versa, folks who have attended a GIFT training and are compelled to want more. They want the next level of programming. So, and here's a picture of a training that we did with the Lilith Fund in Houston this past November, and Alice, again, is on the board of this organization. She's in this picture here. But we were invited to do this training after the Lilith Fund sent representatives to the conference. So they asked us to then come out and do some individual training. Now, GIFT doesn't specifically have a program area that speaks to technology, but increasingly we're recognizing that this is a very vital component of grassroots fundraising and community organizing and movement building. So I wanted to just interject a quick section here on the importance of technology and what GIFT is doing to address it. Here we recognize that technology is having an increasing impact and influence on everybody's lives, really. But we see a data point here that speaks to why specifically we think it's absolutely important that grassroots fundraisers are able to adopt some of these technologies and execute them to help support grassroots fundraising strategies. And so increasingly, we're incorporating technology and talk of technology into our trainings. And so at the end of the day, we'll introduce folks to different platforms and tools and software that's available out there, but we ask folks to consider what remains unchanged about how we fundraise in a mobile world. And at the end of the day, we say that really the basis of grassroots fundraising still exists. All that we're doing is we're identifying new technologies and platforms to help us expand our reach. So just important to really kind of acknowledge that technology is a factor that will increasingly impact the work that we do in this space. And so then finally, I want to introduce you all to GIFT's journal. We put out the Grassroots Fundraising Journal. It comes out every other month, so for an annual subscription, you'll get 6 issues. And GIFT uses the Grassroots Fundraising Journal as a way to really amplify the voices of folks who are doing this work and to explore emerging ideas and trends. And so, Crystal, if you could talk a little bit about how GIFT works to explore some of these things and how the journal maybe fits in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Well, with the journal, we are really just having some more conversations internally about how we can broaden our reach and deepen engagement with our base, primarily through exploring different platforms. So again, thinking about how things have shifted with technology, how people are, accessing information and connecting with each other. And we also, hope to continue to use the journal as a space where we can share our ideas and lessons learned around how we can adapt to the shifting political and funding landscape, especially as we're looking at new administration coming in. And we continue to explore questions of how we can strengthen our national network of social justice fundraisers, and specifically at GIFT, how we can help cultivate spaces where fundraisers can connect with each other to share resources and really just provide some level of support. If you go to the next slide, Veronica. So GIFT is involved in actively collaborating with some different networks. One of the spaces that we do that is the Allied Media Conference that happens every year in Detroit. We're also in active dialogue with groups like Momentum, Movement Net Lab, and Resource Generation. So next year we're co-coordinating the 4th Resourcing and Sustaining Our Movements track at the AMC, and we're working with Resist in Boston, Sue Tiathro in Denver, where Tanya Moat is a former GIFT board member and associate director, and Allied Media Projects in Detroit. And something new that we're working on for next year is we're also working with Resist to organize the sort of pre-conference institute that's titled Reimagining Movement Resource Strategies. So that's a space we're still working to shape the focus for the day, but we're hoping to really dive into the question of how can we more boldly and creatively fund and resource movements for the long haul. If you can go to the next slide. I'm going to keep this next part pretty short because I know we need to have some time for questions. This is an image created by Movement Net Lab. And we just wanted to put this out here to kind of start to visualize that different sort of ecosystem that we are operating in as resource organizers and fundraisers. So we know that the social movement economy and the nonprofit or for-profit economy can operate in parallel, and they can support each other or they can undermine each other. We know typically that nonprofit organizations are really looking to gain resources to grow bigger. So part of the purpose of raising money oftentimes is to sustain the organization or the institution itself. While networks or the social movement economy is really really good at moving resources to where they need to be. And they tend to use a transformational economy. So that's kind of jargony, but essentially using a currency of inspiration and producing meaning through the work, through the organizing, as opposed to producing a product that can be consumed. So we know that oftentimes these relationships can be, really mutually beneficial, but they also have the danger of being extractive, where a nonprofit may be siphoning resources from movements. We've seen that around some of the fundraising with Standing Rock, where you have organizations kind of jumping on the newest hot cause that's getting a lot of energy to run some fundraising campaigns, but maybe that organization isn't really that tied to what's happening on the ground and isn't actually moving those resources to the front lines. And so we want to always be mindful of that potential dynamic. If you could move to the next slide. And then lastly, just to wrap some things up, just a few points for reflection. We know that increasingly that movement building is going to require us to really shift from institutional funding, including foundation and government funding, to really thinking more broadly about resources. So not just thinking about money, but thinking about land, thinking about space, time, expertise that we have, the people power that we have, and thinking about how we can mobilize a broader concept of resources. And then we need to also really actively redefine how we perceive these resources so we can address just the complexity of the needs that are coming up within movements, and in a lot of cases as well to restructure the way that we typically move money to movements to respond to how a lot of those new movements, such as Black Lives Matter, are networked movements. So they're decentralized in terms of their leadership, and it's just a different sort of context. So lastly, I think there's just a lot of connection with GIFT's work and trying to help organizers see their role as fundraisers, and to more broadly help people see that everyone has access to resources and therefore everyone can play a role and has a role in helping to move resources to movements.
Thank you, Crystal. So I do want to hold a few minutes at the end here for any questions. So you see some resources we're directing you to here. Definitely check out GIFT's website. You can get a sense of all of our programming there, reflections of our training. You can watch clips from the conference and then also access our archives from the journal. So please do check out our website. And we'll go ahead and take questions.
Hi everybody, this is Biz. I just want to ask you if you have any questions, if you can start typing them into the question box. I will be happy to help moderate. And in the meantime, I want to draw your attention to the PDF handout that we've attached with today's presentation. So in your control panel, there should be access to that flyer as well as the question boxes in there as well. So while we see if folks have any questions that come up, I want to first, as a recovering development director, thank you all for bringing such fresh and exciting energy to thinking about fundraising. I know I am eager to get more involved with what you're doing and think about how I can help share these resources with folks who have felt like fundraising was something that they didn't want to get involved with, but really did want to be part of the movement. So this is powerful kind of bridge building that I really want to tip my hat to and share EPIP's gratitude for you guys bringing it to our attention and to our community today. I don't see questions popping up, which I think is in part because you guys were very clear and there's a lot of robust resources that folks I think are able to dig into now. I did want to also highlight that Veronica shared her email at the front slide, and we will have it all up on the website soon. So I'm hoping, and please confirm if this is true, that if folks have questions they'd rather connect with you directly to ask, that's okay. Is that true?
Absolutely.
Great. Wonderful. Well, happy holidays to everyone who celebrates things at the end of the year, and happy Wednesday to everyone, no matter what you celebrate. I want to thank all of the speakers for sharing your personal stories and experience, as well as your deep set of resources and really beautiful list of opportunities for things we can either get involved in or reach out and start to think about how we can meaningfully bring this to grantee communities, to communities where we live and work, and hope that we can all stay involved in the new year to help making great things happen despite the world around us. So thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Biz. Thanks, everybody.